Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Freedom for Tibet. Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama. This is not just a story about me, but of thousands of Tibetans who have suffered and continue to suffer in jails of China under Chinese repressive policies.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the next speech, interpretation is available in English and French.
May His Holiness the Dalai Lama live long. Let His Holiness the Dalai Lama return to Tibet and His Eminence Kirti Rinpoche return to Tibet. Freedom for Tibet. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama live long. Let His Holiness the Dalai Lama return to Tibet. Freedom for Tibet. Touch delay and greetings to everyone. I'm an ordinary nomad woman from the Ngaba region of Tibet. On 21st October 2015, my cousin sister Tenzin Doma and I staged a peaceful protest march. At that time, both of us were 15 years of age. While holding large photos of His Holiness the Dalai Lama like this one, we called for His Holiness the Dalai Lama and His Eminence Kirti Rinpoche to be allowed to return to Tibet, praying for their long life and called for freedom in Tibet. I was immediately beaten up by the Chinese authorities, and then they took me in a room where I was detained for over about 6 days, during which I was tortured. They subjected us to torture where they made us face heaters and turned the heaters at extremely high temperatures and then interrogated us. They asked which exiled organizations we were linked with. So in that small room, they tortured us, beat us for about 6 days and nights. I felt that if I was a meat, I would have been like an overcooked meat, and I would have been a melting butter in minutes. So for 1 year and 1 month, me and my cousin sisters, we never saw each other. We were put in separate rooms and interrogated. Almost every week, they will come and tell us that His Holiness has done nothing for you. Look at your status right now. What what does it help that His Holiness could not do anything right now or help you? You are separatists, causing trouble to the nation, betraying the nation, and it's of serious crime, they told me. So for more than a year and a month, me and my sister, we never saw each other. I was never allowed to talk to another prisoner. I was in solitary confinement, whereas the other Chinese prisoners, they could speak freely to one another. They were about 12 in the same cell. And then they would tell me, does it help now that you are holding His Holiness the Dalai Lama's picture? In the cold, freezing winter, we had very frail clothing that I really felt extremely cold. Like sometimes I couldn't feel my fingers because of the freezing cold. The food was never enough and it lacked nutrition and was extremely poor, despite the fact that I was made to work for hours and hours. I was taken to the Sichuan female prison for female prisoners, which is one of the biggest one in China, after I was sentenced. In that prison, there were other Tibetan prisoners. However, as Tibetan, because of my identity as Tibetan, and for the reason that I was in jail, I had to face so much discrimination in the prison. This is not just a story about me, but of thousands of Tibetans who have suffered and continue to suffer in jails of China under Chinese repressive policies. In the jail, we had to wake up at around 6 in the morning, and until 8 or 9 or even later at night, we have to work. We have to do forced labor in jail. I was made to work to make very thin copper wire, and then would never let us even turn our heads to, on either side. We have to sit for hours and hours that I would feel my body, whole of my body in pain. And sometimes I would get injuries to my bottom because of too much sitting. Even though the food was never filling enough, that we never felt that we have eaten something. However, they added something in the food that within a month or two of coming in the prison, prisoners would start looking more plump and swollen, because they would add something so that we appear, something in the food that we would appear as if we were, getting enough food in the prison, and from the outside we would look healthy for others. They called us His Holiness the Dalai Lama's people. They called us as the Dalai Lama's clique, and never allowed us, made sure that we would never cross our ways, even though we were in the same compound. I was also made to undergo patriotic re-education, where they made me read and learn by heart the Chinese Constitution and other CCP laws. They won't let me sleep because they said I have to learn this by heart. And at that time, I didn't know or speak Chinese. However, they would not let me sleep and instead made me read and learn those Chinese rules and books. In the prison, for other prisoners, they allowed a visitation. I remember once when my father had to show his thumb in a pleading manner, kneel down and pleaded to the prison authorities to let my father see me. But for Tibetans, they never allowed family visitation hours. The Chinese prisoners could come during those visitation hours almost like every month and come and see their family members in jail. But because we were Tibetans, we were deprived of that right. So once, at that time when my father kneeled in front of the jail officers and they let him see me, but only for a few minutes. It only lasted for 5 minutes. As soon as we started speaking on the phone and asked each other how we were doing, he asked me and I said I was fine, and I asked him how he was, and at that moment the jail officers snatched the phone away from us and said we cannot speak in Tibetan. But I told them that my father doesn't speak Chinese. However, they said we cannot meet further. In the prison for me and for other Tibetan prisoners, every once in 2 months, we would have a recreational event where we will be allowed to rest. However, because that was true for other prisoners. However, for Tibetan prisoners, even on those events and those days, we were made to work continuously. On 21st of October 2018, after completing our prison terms, me and my sister Tenzin Doma were released. But they had called the the Ngaba Chinese police and my village police officers to come to the prison to take me. So the Ngaba County Police and my village police, they took me to my village police station where they detained me for 1 week, for 1 more week, because they said they wanted to make sure that I will not protest or do any such thing in the future. And when I said that I cannot say anything, they called my families, not just my families and my parents, but the heads of my villages to the police station and made them sign documents saying they will be responsible if I stage any such protest in the future. So I had only 2 options, that either I had to die in Tibet under Chinese oppression, or I had to flee my homeland. Even though I was released, it was just my body that was out of prison, but I was being restricted in every way possible, whether it was meeting my friends, going to a nearby place, or tracing my phone calls. I was being surveillanced and watched 24 hours. And that is why in 2023, I decided to leave my country. The reason for leaving my home country is that I had the firm belief that if I come outside in the free country, I would definitely be able to find people and governments who would listen to what I had to say, that we had no freedom in Tibet. We have no freedom of religion, of language. Freedom for Tibet is what I believe in and I call for. And that is why I come into exile. I had the honor to meet many members of the United Nations to speak the truth. I had the opportunity. Even today, I thank the organizers for giving me this platform to share the real situation in Tibet, where hundreds and thousands of Tibetans continue to suffer even to this day. The Chinese government is controlling Tibet under such tight oppression and surveillance. So it is extremely important that we really see the real situation, the extremely dire situation that Tibetans are in Tibet. So I ask you all to continue to support Tibet in fulfilling the aspirations of the Tibetan people to see His Holiness the Dalai Lama to return to Tibet. Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Freedom for Tibet. Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Thank you, everyone. I am Namkyi, and this is not just my life story, but the story of thousands of Tibetans. Please stand with us. Thank you, everyone.